Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Isha and I'm a life coach, and today let's talk about emotional manipulations with self and others. So what is an emotional manipulation? Emotional manipulations is using emotions to manipulate self or others with our behavior, words or our actions. So it's an act of subtly influencing our or other person emotions to gain an advantage or to gain control over them. Okay, and emotional manipulation to the self is ignoring or giving your emotions and feelings a different closure than what you actually felt. For example, when you are hurt or feel neglected or used, instead of acknowledging how you felt, you concocted a story in your mind to manipulate your emotions so that you don't feel that way. Okay, so that's how you create a lot of emotional baggage over the years by not accepting and acknowledging your own feelings and emotions, which later manifest in your body as diseases, behavioral issues, and negative thought patterns, right? So even when an unpleasant incident happens to you, try to avoid it or give it a closure just to escape the feeling, and later it will manifest in your life as suppressed emotions and their repercussions. Okay, so that's why I always say feel it to heal it. Okay, so before giving closure to any incident that made you feel sad, hopeless, angry, disrespected, neglected, or even ignored, whatever your true feelings were, first accept and acknowledge those emotions. Only then should you give that situation a closure. Otherwise, it sets a deep impression in your subconscious and it keep replaying like a reel in your mind over and over again. And unconsciously, this is how we manipulate our emotions, which then leads to emotional suppression. Okay? Emotional manipulation to the self also includes giving yourself those weak excuses for not working hard, for not being consistent, for living a sedentary lifestyle, or for being careless or ignorant in your own life. You must have heard this kind of self talk that just because I had a tough childhood, I can't be successful. But in reality, you are resisting that consistent hard work needed towards your goals and dreams. Okay, or let's take another example that I wasn't raised in a good environment, so that's why I have a sedentary lifestyle. But here, you are avoiding the responsibility for your life and not taking action to change your habits and your behavior to create the life that you truly desire for. Okay, so these kind of excuses are actually subtle forms of emotional manipulations where we use our past experiences to justify a victim mindset. Okay, and in such scenarios now we are consciously manipulating our emotions and once again suppressing the true feelings behind them. Okay, and my intention here is not to blame anyone or encourage self-criticism in any way, but rather to promote self-awareness about these emotional manipulations so that they do not turn later into some suppressed emotions with the consequences simply because we did not process them when we needed to. Okay, and the truth is we all have gone through this at some point or another in our lives. Okay, now, another kind of manipulation is when we intentionally or unintentionally manipulate others through our words, our behaviors, or our actions. And this include the tactics like guilt tripping, gaslighting, emotional blackmail, reverse psychology, or silent treatment. In a sense, we exploit a person's vulnerabilities and insecurities to get what we want, sometimes without even realizing it. Okay, so let's dive into some of the common emotional manipulation techniques. Okay, and could stop ourselves and others from doing so. So, first emotional manipulation technique is paltering, which simply means when someone tells you the truth but hides the important information, creating a false impression. For example, someone who is dating says that I'm very open in my relationships. I even share my social media passwords with my partner. Okay, but their hidden intention might be rooted in distrust or jealousy, leading them to monitor each other's activities. So, on the surface, it seems like an honest gesture, but the underlying motive tells a different story, right? Now, another type of emotional manipulation is gaslighting. We all have heard of this one. It's when a person makes someone doubt their own abilities or sanity by denying the truth or reality. And over time, the victim starts to believe that they are the problem. The manipulator chips away at their self-esteem, making them feel like they cannot trust their own decisions anymore. Okay. Another type of manipulation is backstabbing, where someone betrays your trust and confidence by secretly harming you or undermining you while pretending to be your friend or ally in the front. Okay. Now, another one is triangulation that involves bringing a third person into the dynamic to manipulate or control the whole situation. And this often creates jealousy, competition, or the feeling of insecurity. And it is very commonly seen in relationships, whether among friends or your romantic partner. Okay. Now, another form of emotional manipulation is exploitation, okay, where someone takes advantage of your weaknesses, your insecurities, or your fears to manipulate you. For example, someone might take advantage of other person's loneliness by pretending to be their friend and then exploiting them materially or emotionally. Okay. Another form of manipulation is guilt tripping. It is when someone tries to make you feel guilty in order to control your behavior. And this can involve making you responsible for something that isn't even your fault, or exaggerating a situation to just shift the blame. Okay. Another form of emotional manipulation is reverse psychology. It is when someone tells you to do the opposite of what they actually want you to do. For example, in friendships, now they might say, you probably wouldn't want to hang out with me, just go and be with your other friends. And this is how they are making you feel bad and reconsider your choice. Okay. Now, love bombing is another technique of emotional manipulation. You know, when someone overwhelms you with their attention, compliments, or praise in order to manipulate your emotions or actions. It is very common in romantic relationships and is a typical trait of narcissists also, who will later then become controlling or prone to angry outbursts. Okay. Now, nagging is another form of manipulation when someone tries to control your behavior through mild insults disguised as jokes or compliments with the true motive of undermining your confidence or your skills. Okay. Now, next is silent treatment. We are all familiar with this. It's when someone ignores you deliberately to punish or pressurize you into doing what they want. Okay. Now, there are some other techniques of manipulation which may include playing dumb when people try to act confused or pretending not to understand something just to avoid admitting the truth or taking the responsibility of something. Or public humiliation, saying things like, I can't believe you don't know how to do this, to embarrass someone in front of others. Or denial, completely denying what you said or did, even when confronted with clear evidence. Or it could be switch tracking, bringing up someone else's past mistakes when you are being confronted about your own behavior to deflect the responsibility. Okay, so these are some common kinds of emotional manipulations that we see in our relations or at workplaces also. Okay, and you know why I'm sharing all this? Because so many times now, even unconsciously, we do these things to others, or others do them to us. But when people do this consciously, now that's when it becomes truly harmful. So this video is all about building the awareness, help you spot the emotional manipulation and rise above it, because awareness is the key here. So how can you protect yourself and rise above such emotional manipulations? First is spotting the pattern, whether it's your own behavior or someone else. It is the key. Once you become aware now that such manipulations exist and are commonly used in social settings, awareness becomes a powerful tool to safeguard yourself against them. Okay, and sometimes now even people who genuinely love or care for us might unknowingly engage in these behaviors. So in such cases, open communication can help resolve such issues. Okay, now second way is setting healthy boundaries. Once you recognize that you are being manipulated, you can learn how to set healthy boundaries, so that you don't get tangled in someone else's emotional games or control tactics, right? Now, the third is to uncover self manipulation. Start by acknowledging your emotions. Notice how you feel when something happens and whether you try to ignore or avoid those feelings. Journaling and self reflection tools really help you identify those hidden emotional patterns and bring clarity into your life. Okay, now another important step is knowing yourself, because when you know your truth now, you will not get caught into other person manipulation tactic. Okay, so self awareness again becomes a key here. Okay, now, and always remember, do not play their game. Once you know what's happening now, just stay away, because reducing your participation is way better for your emotional well-being rather than confronting those manipulative people head on. Okay, if you do not have to interact with that person, consider cutting them out of your life entirely, or at the very least avoid them as much as possible. Okay, forms of emotional manipulation can disrupt healthy communication, damage trust in relationships, and lead to anxiety, confusion, self-doubt, and a mindset of I cannot trust anyone again. Okay, so by shining a light on these tactics, we can break free from their grip and begin to cultivate interactions that are honest, respectful, supportive, and nurturing in our life. Okay, so that's all for today. See you in my next video.